This is a live look right now from the Supreme Court this morning in Washington, D.C. The justices returning to work this week to face a busy docket of several high-profile cases in the coming weeks and months. The High Court is expected to weigh in on things like presidential power, birthright citizenship, and mail-in voting.
So Attorney Josh Kolsrud is here this morning to talk about some of these cases and what they could mean for us here in Arizona. So Josh, always great talking to you. Birthright is going to be a huge one, isn't it?
Birthright and tariffs and voting rights, this term is going to be really huge. And the Supreme Court is going to be answering the same questions that it has been since 1787. I mean, how much power does the president have, and how much power does the Supreme Court have in order to regulate what the executive branch does?
Let's start with the tariffs. What are your thoughts on this? Because we've already seen numerous appeals to say this, saying this is unconstitutional. Where do you think this one will go?
Well, that case is huge, and I'll tell you why. So the people that are opposing the tariffs are saying that the president is enforcing a tax on his own, where traditionally that's in the purview of Congress. Now, if the Supreme Court says that the opponents are correct, that the tariffs are somehow illegal, the U.S. could have to issue a refund in the billions of dollars. So that's going to be a huge case about how far the executive branch can go in levying tariffs, okay? But then we also have the other two cases, right? We have the birthright citizenship and the voting rights case. So in the birthright citizenship case, the Supreme Court is going to decide what the 14th Amendment means. Specifically, it says that people become citizens if they are born in the country and they're subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And here's the issue. Does the president have the power to define what that means? And the president in this case is referring to an 1898 case where the Supreme Court said that you had to be born in the country and you could also be a lawful permanent resident, but it did not apply to people who were here just temporarily. So that's going to be a huge case. And then finally, we have the voting rights case where you have an Illinois congressperson who is suing the Illinois legislature, saying that the fact that they're still counting votes 14 days after the election violates federal law. Now, the reason why this is important is because if the Supreme Court sides with the politician, it's going to allow the floodgates for suing election boards after the election. If you remember, Carrie Lake, she lost a couple of her lawsuits because the Supreme Court of Arizona said she didn't have standing to sue. So the Supreme Court could then validate that lawsuit in the future.
One of the other things that they're also going to be talking about, I believe, the Supreme Court, is we see all the time federal judges striking down things that President Trump is trying to achieve. Are they going to look at that?
So that's another huge thing the Supreme Court is going to be looking at. So not just the executive power, but how far the judicial power can reach. So it's unprecedented how the judicial branch is extending itself in this certain term. And I'll give you an example. So you've heard of nationwide injunctions. There's a single district court judge who says, Trump shouldn't be doing this, so I'm going to stop the entire nation from enforcing this executive order. Now, the Supreme Court has already jumped in here a little bit last semester or last term and said, you can't, one district court judge cannot handcuff an entire nation. But you have other district court judges that are finding ways around that Supreme Court order. So the Supreme Court is most likely going to have to readdress what that means.
Okay.
Any inkling on maybe some of the topics and how the judges will vote on it? I mean, they could take months. A lot of times we don't hear about the results till next June on what they side with.
Well, I expect that we'll start hearing some of the major decisions at the very latest, at the beginning of this year. Okay. Sorry, at the end of this year.
Okay.
End of this year.
All right. All right.
Josh, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
This is going to be huge.
Huge.
Yeah, it really is. All right.
Thank you so much, Josh.